Hello, welcome to Conversations for the Moving Self. I am your host, Megan, a lifelong movement artist and facilitator. Each week, I invite you inside of the honest conversations that I have been having with some incredibly inspiring movement and well-being practitioners, as we unpack the beautiful roller coaster it is to pursue a lifestyle built around movement and well-being. Join us as we share and reflect on the moments where movement lights your soul on fire, to the situations where you begin to question everything. Welcome to episode 9 of Conversations for the Moving Self. Today I have Laura Heywood joining me from the UK. Laura and I actually originally connected while I was assisting for Laura on the Children and Youth program at the Place in London. And from the first day I was assisting with Laura, I felt super inspired by the care and attention to the whole human that enters the space that she creates and facilitates. And not just in the students, but also in the assistants, to the musicians, to any external guests coming to watch. I always felt there was such a huge emphasis on creating a space that allows for taking risks and for self-discovery, but in a place that prioritizes sustainability and well-being. And I just have been so inspired by the light that she brings into the movement industry, and I'm super excited to have her here to chat with us today. Laura is a dance movement and Pilates teacher. She also has a gymnastics practice in another side of her life and is teaching in many different spaces and creating lots of cool things as well. So I'm super excited. Thank you for joining, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
We'll start today just with how you're showing up for your movement and well-being practice today.
Believe it or not, I went for a run this morning. That is
Cool.
me showing up for myself. I'm on half term because I'm predominantly a teacher. The only thing that hasn't stopped is my adult teaching and my Pilates work. So I have a lot more free time in the day. And I notoriously don't like running. So I'm trying to teach myself to love it. I always want to try and love something. So I went for a run. It was hard, but not that bad. And I think beyond that, I'm actually resting more today. I think my body deserves a break from constantly being on the go.
Definitely, definitely. Especially when you're teaching quite a bit as well. It's super valuable to be able to go, okay, I can just slow down for a minute. It's okay and it's allowed. And yeah, I respect the balance that you've cultivated today already. Like, and I know it's quite early in your morning, but to be able to find that balance quite quickly in the day is impressive too.
I,
Um,
but it's all like it's just today. I might not do it tomorrow.
this is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
Some days I won't leave my sofa, and then I'm like, oh, come on, Laura, go for a walk, go for a walk.
Yeah. I was on my way home from my first class this morning, like, oh, I'm gonna go for a run. And then I got home and I was like, no, I'm gonna do a 20-minute workout at the gym.
Yeah. Do you know what
But
though? I know that we're going through, but like I started a thing called Jeffing where I actually think this would be really good for a lot of dancers who don't like running because it's you run for like a minute, two, three, or beyond, and then you have a 30-minute break. No, 30-second break. And you just run for 3 minutes and stop.
uh,
But it's really handy because I actually think it suits the way in which we're trained because we're used to attacking something and then having a bit of an ease off and then attacking again. And you know where and when to put your energy in. And I've been doing that. And actually, it used to take me 7 odd minutes to run a kilometer, and today I did it in 5. So
oh,
I think there's something to it.
yeah, I'll definitely have to try that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and always like after run, you feel so good, right? Like, so it's
Yeah,
it's just the starting.
exactly.
Um, yeah, I guess maybe where I'm curious about heading next is if you are happy to share a little bit more about your movement journey, like your path into movement and the different practices you have in your
Yeah.
repertoire.
Of course. So when I was very young, my parents put me into absolutely everything. I had a lot of energy, and actually, I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 32. So I found it very late in the game. But they didn't know, but they were like, how are we going to get all this energy out of this child? So I was put in everything. And dance was one of them, and gymnastics was another, along with running, football, netball, everything. And I went to my local dance school from when I was 3 until 17, I would say. And I did every single class that they had. I loved it so much. Probably put my parents in a lot of debt doing it because I just had to have more. And alongside that, I did gymnastics till I was 9 or 10, I think. And then I had to stop because I had to choose ballet or gymnastics. The choice came, which I don't think needs to be a choice, but that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Maybe it is relevant. Then after that, I did my performing arts at college and I did dance there. And then eventually I went to Trinity Laban, um, did my BA. I got into Transitions Dance Company, which doesn't exist anymore, which is their postgraduate company. I did that for a year. And then I went on to stay within the dance world and I performed on and off for around about 5 or 6 years, which was amazing. I had the best time. I got to go and do like carnival work in India and South Africa. I got to do work with adults with neurodisabilities, and we would go into hospitals and do work with them and also perform with them. So many amazing children's projects, so many children's projects. I think I knew then that I would end up working with kids because something about my face made the kids watch. They were all like, "Oh, babies, they're brilliant." And then slowly I started to transition into teaching. I was very fortunate that somebody who hired me as a dancer, the choreographer, had another company, and she got me teaching there. And I started off actually teaching adults mainly and doing a strange mix of dance and drama,
Mm.
or like dance and fitness classes. So it was working in care homes for elderly adults, and then there's a place north of the river where adults, like a day center where adults would come for the day, and I would run their like seated dance classes. And yeah, I mean, it was great. I still know people who work there because I passed that job on, and I'm very glad that it's still going. And then slowly I started moving into teaching more technical subjects and looking at release technique and Cunningham and how we can integrate that into generic training. Yeah, it's been a long journey. Eventually I did Pilates. I did my Pilates training. I did some special yoga training so that I could support students with additional needs that I was working with when I started transferring into primary education. And yeah, and I guess like for my personal movement journey along that, at the age of 30, I turned 30 and I was like, I need to do something. What did I used to love? And I went back to gymnastics because it was something that I always loved, and I was sad that I didn't get to carry it on. So yeah, now I haven't been for a few weeks, but I do love it and I need to go back. I don't have the energy all the time to go.
Yeah, sometimes it's too much. But no, it's thank you for sharing. It's super cool to like, I think for me to also hear in more depth because when we're in a working environment, sometimes you don't get the chance to fully like
Yeah.
talk in full detail about it. But Yeah, it made me think actually about when you said that the time came where you had to make a choice between dance or gymnastics. And of course, like there's a limit on capacity, both in a physical way and also like financial, logistical way. Um, but I really liked that sentiment of like, maybe it's not, and maybe it doesn't have to be a choice and that you can return to it later. And I actually myself, I didn't have a huge gymnastics practice growing up, but like there was a short period of time where I did it, and then the exact same thing happened of like, Megan, you have to make a choice. There's not enough time, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And so I picked dance, but being here in like a new space, I was like, I'll take a few gymnastics classes, and I also haven't been in a couple weeks just logistically. But it's so nice to like, I think, return to like being a student and in something that you don't have like maybe as close of a relationship with, and it
Yeah.
creates yeah, just a space to explore and to learn and to soak up and have fun and
Yeah.
not take it too seriously. And so
I completely agree. And I think there's so much that you can also learn from learning a new discipline or a familiar discipline. I think the only challenge I had, and I don't, again, it's like been a learning curve with it, but I don't have it now. But when I first went back, I felt the expectation on me because I mean, I couldn't flip it like I used to when I was a kid by any means, but like I knew what certain things should feel like. And I remember my like because I can point my toes and have a straight leg and kick it quite high. The instructor was like, "Oh, you've got this." So they didn't actually tell me the information that I needed because it looked like I knew what I was doing, but I
yeah,
was like I was walking in the dark. I was cartwheeling, doing it completely wrong because I'm doing this lovely soft contemporary cartwheel. Whereas actually, if you're gonna do a without hands, an aerial, there's the word, you have to whip. I don't know what whip was. So there I am, like, oh, this is lovely. And then they're like, oh, no, you need to go faster. And I'm like, but what? How do I go faster?
yeah.
Explain this to me.
This
So
is it's true.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
challenging.
yeah, like how yeah, obviously there's a lot of transferable skills, but then of course there's so much detail and nuance and useful insight that someone who's been like solely in, not solely in that discipline, but focused on that discipline can offer. And it's like, no, please tell me,
Yeah,
please help. I want to learn. And yeah, ah,
yeah.
I like
They
that.
also love a ballistics bounce in gymnastics, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So I was constantly like just doing this lovely ease in, and they're like, no, you have to bounce. And I was like,
You know what?
I'm sorry, I'm not feeling it. Like I had to do it really nicely without being like, I disagree with this. I don't
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
beneficial for me, especially in my 30s. Like I know you can make a child bounce a little bit easier because their muscles
yeah,
come back and forth, but like I might pull my hip.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yes. Also this of like uh being a beginner, not or like being, yeah, when you're in a beginner space of a practice that maybe the facilitator is like, ah, but the kids can do it. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah, my body does not feel that warm yet.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, actually it made me wonder when did you decide you wanted to get certified to teach Pilates?
So it was, oh, how I don't know how long ago I've had the qualification. A couple, like 2 or 3 years maybe. Um, I I grew an interest in it after going to more Pilates classes myself. And I always had this affiliation with Pilates based on my dance training. So actually, funnily enough, when I did my training, I met another teacher who used to teach me ballet in my
Oh,
training because she was learning to do it, which was very
yeah.
fascinating. And she's lovely. Like it was lovely to catch up with her again, but I was surprised that she was doing it. And it like the person who taught us clearly had a Pilates background, but a lot of the time people get people in to teach Pilates who aren't always qualified to teach Pilates. And I remember not liking it because I found it so slow and I didn't understand it and that nobody explained it to me correctly. So I would just lay on the floor and we'd be going into a glute bridge and I'd think, what's the point? Like, why are we doing a glute bridge? Where am I supposed to feel this? So I'm just going up and down aimlessly and probably hurting my back. Um,
Mm.
but then I started going to Pilates classes myself because doing gymnastics is great, but it's a lot on the body. Um, and dancing all the time in and out without warming up as a teacher is so much on the body that I needed something for me. And I also needed something that was accessible. And slowly I just learned to love it so much. And I got fascinated with which muscle I was using. And it became a bit of a mindful practice as well, a bit of calm in the chaos that is my mind. So for half an hour to an hour, I can only focus on these muscles or my breath pattern or how I'm lifting this and moving this and can I do it without activating this part. And so it kind of became a puzzle and a game. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then I decided to train in it because I realized if I like it that much, once I realize how much to like it, then
Mm.
hopefully I can tell other people that. And slowly I think it's working because I teach mat Pilates and everyone wants to go to reformer because it's fun. And don't get me wrong, I love a reformer class. But slowly I'm getting more and more people in my mat Pilates classes because I've taught them where the muscle is that they need to use. And now they're like, oh, this is really hard. And I'm like, yeah, when you do it right, it's hard. When you do it wrong, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. 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 No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is the teaching going? Like alongside dance teaching and like creative settings? Like how does the headspace feel when you're teaching Pilates versus dance?
It feels calmer, so much
Mm.
calmer. I think when I'm teaching dance, I'm constantly thinking about what's coming next, different directions, every single detail on the students in the space. How can we change this and make it more creative? So my brain is constantly finding new and exciting ways. Whereas in a Pilates studio, we've got a set structure. Obviously, I can think, oh, next week we'll turn this, we'll do the more advanced version of this, or we can try and work towards that. But because there's
Mhm.
almost a set structure that I have to work within parameters of, you can be creative, but if
Yeah.
you're too creative, you might as well do a bar class. At least so far when I've played with it, because you
Yeah.
lose the traditional sense of the Pilates.
Yeah.
So I actually find it quite easy because I'm not easy, but easier because I
Yeah.
walk
Yeah.
around, I'm looking at the details on everybody, I demonstrate, I make sure I demonstrate correctly. And actually, I'm moving less because
Mm.
I only need to demonstrate it twice and then I need to look at everybody else.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes, and not always, but teaching dance, unless the students are responding very quickly, I might have to demonstrate something that's quite challenging and quite exhausting 5 or 6 times to show
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
exactly how you want it to be done or to what range you want it to be done. And
Yeah.
yeah, I do really like teaching Pilates. I must admit it's probably the least teaching I do in the week, because I'm still getting called in to do lots of dance work, which is great, and I love that, and I'm very grateful for that. Um,
Yeah.
but it's a nice, I think it's a good transitional thing as well to like keep the body moving and keep teaching without putting so much into everything all the time.
Yeah, yeah. It's really interesting. It reminded me of a moment I did my yoga teacher training this past year. And my dad also teaches yoga. And one day we were like having a conversation about how it was going. And I said to him, like, I feel like it's easier than dance. And not necessarily the practice of yoga. And there's so much I still can continue to
Yeah.
learn, and it's always ongoing. But like something about the structure of it is, I think I felt a very similar way, especially having like already been teaching dance and then stepping into teaching yoga. I was like, okay, like maybe I wasn't overthinking as much as well with like what is the definition of contemporary dance or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever. But also, yeah, like I hadn't even thought about the amount of demonstrating that maybe is required in one or the other, or yeah, there's something about the the predictability. I don't know if that's the best word, but like for me, it was more formulaic, and so I found the shift into teaching it like, oh, okay, I know where I'm going,
yeah.
which is cool.
I
It's
think that that's something that a lot of people find when they teach structural classes. So, um, you and I might be teaching a creative contemporary class that we're making up from scratch and figuring
yeah,
out every week how to do it. Whereas if so I teach at the Royal Academy of Dance and they've got structured ballet classes that they teach every
yeah,
week. And
yeah,
not to say that that isn't very hard because that is, but you can go back to your notes and know that you're going to be teaching this exact same thing for the next 3 or 4 years unless it's changed. And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the children may move on, or you may go with them and have to change grades, but it's all written down somewhere. There will be access to it. And
yeah.
I recently, an employer of mine got me to do the Rambert grades. And as I was doing that, I was like, is this what it's like to be given a class? Like, I was like,
Mhm.
oh, all I have to do is know what they've told me. And I don't,
Yeah,
and there I was like watching it and over analyzing it. And I was like, well, how can we like develop that? And I'm like, no, that's not my job with this. Like, my job
yeah,
is to literally teach what's there. And
yeah.
it's so interesting because then I was comparing it to my own practice and how I develop things and how they've developed things. And
Mm,
it's very interesting to be given the
yeah,
material. And I think, and that's in a way what yoga and Pilates does. They've offered
yeah,
you a material and a way of doing where
yeah,
which contemporary or creative dance does not in
yeah,
specifically.
yeah, yeah. When you were growing up, did you train in structured classes or in creative classes or in both or
Fully structured. There
okay.
was there was yeah, no creative movement until I went to college.
Okay.
And then at college, I had an amazing teacher who showed us who Matthew Bourne was or who Hofesh was. And suddenly I'm like, oh, what's this? And they're the mainstream people, but I was like, oh, I could like I loved Matthew Bourne because I was so trained in ballet as a child and I loved
Mm,
being a character and putting things on that I was like, that's how I like to move. I like to do that. So I was very inspired, and then that's what led me into contemporary dance as a
yeah.
whole. But I also started creating independently at that point. And I somehow, there was this thing, I don't know if it even exists anymore, it probably does, but there was a thing called the UK Skills Competition. And there were options for different things. Some of it was, being good at football and things like that. And then there was a dance category. And the dance category was choreography or performance, group and non-group. And I, my teacher encouraged me to put a choreography in that I just made up for fun. And I put it in the first year and I won, which was amazing. I was like 16 and like, wow, this is cool. And then the second year, she was like, you should do it again. And I went again and I went again. And I was like, what? So I think that's what really got me because I wasn't always the most technical dancer, but I was a good performer and I knew and I liked creating. So I was very
Yeah.
playful with how I explored movement. And I think that's what really drew me to going into a more contemporary dance.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Very interesting. I am always curious because I think maybe I'm sure somewhere in the US there is a place to access more like structured training, and not that my training growing up lacked structure, but we didn't follow like RID or any of these ISTD, like the exam-based classes. And so it was such a foreign concept to me when I first moved to the UK. but now like I still like I'm always it's interesting to see. I have a friend who's teaching either RID or ISTD at the minute, I can't remember. But we were talking about like we're both teaching and reflecting on things recently, and I just even in that moment was like, ah, yeah, like it's so we're teaching entirely different things, but also the same things. Like
Yeah.
there, and it is super interesting, like what both offer. And yeah, I wish, I think, I wish every kid had access to all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I think that would be the ideal, is that you
yeah,
can do all of it and learn all these different ways of moving, but sadly it's not. I
it's
mean,
not.
it's
It's not physically
predominantly like
possible.
outside of, I mean, there will be places outside of London that will be more creative for kids. But where I grew up, there was a choice of 3 dance schools. All of them did
Mm,
RAD, and you would do ISTD modern and tap. And that was
yeah.
they were your options. They do contemporary now, and actually the school that I went to doesn't exist anymore. Sadly, it's been taken over, and it's more of an acro school, which
Mm,
is I think it's slowly a transformation that I'm seeing in smaller scale schools, is that they've got now acrobatics or like flexibility and things, and we're kind of going into, can you get your leg up really high and do a turn, and
yeah.
like especially within younger like competitive dance. um but yeah, I when I look at the students that I teach who have had creative training, some of the things that they come up with are amazingly beautiful, and I I wish I had that when I was a child, because
Mm.
who knows how creative I'd be now.
Yeah, as you were speaking, it made me actually think about like being in your class, and I remember feeling, I think assisting for you really opened up my eyes to the amount of different ways that we can try and incorporate a safe space for students, whether that's just bringing like more attention to care and their voice being heard as a dancer, but also to acknowledging and working with different learning needs, and whether that's in a neurotypical or neurodivergent way, like um, and or disability with physical limitations. Or wondered for you, it's sounding like you grew up in quite a regimented training environment growing up, and when that shift of like, like I want to continue to add tools to my box to open up the access to dance, when that kind of came into your practice.
Mhm.
And yeah,
I can't actually say when it started.
yeah, yeah. Kind of imagined actually.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. I think um it's always just been in me to make it accessible. I don't
Mm,
I grew up with a disabled mum. She had MS and was a wheelchair user, and I hated inaccessible places. So if my mum couldn't get in there, that made me unhappy. We had a dance studio. My dance studio growing up had stairs to go up to the main room, and obviously she could come for quite a few years, but then eventually that she couldn't come to a watching day. So,
yeah.
and I can't actually tell you if we found a way around that, or if they just didn't come, or
Mm,
how that worked, because I can't remember.
yeah.
And so I've always wanted an accessible space for her. She's no longer with us,
Mhm.
sadly. Um, and I think that's fed into it. I think,
Yeah.
and I just imagine whenever I'm teaching, if she was in the classroom with me, how would this work for her? And obviously, when I'm teaching 5 and 6 year olds, she wouldn't want to be there. But but it's if I had a student come in who was in a wheelchair and didn't have access to anything but their right arm, which is by the end of her life where her movement ability was, how are we going to interact with that student? And how
Mm,
can we make this class just as enjoyable and important and amazing for them as we would
mm,
for the student who has been doing ballet for 5 years and has full access to their body and the way it works. And yeah, I think that's where that side of my practice comes from, and thinking about inclusive language to bring everybody in. So you can still jump whilst being in a wheelchair or being sat down. You can find different ways to jump the body. But the word walk isn't always as accessible. So can we just change that to travel, or can we think about different terms that we're using? A plie could still be a thing, but then we have to break that down and understand what that is. And then when it comes to them being in the space, I always start my classes by sitting in a circle and asking everyone to share something from their week. I mean, I think it's a great way, one, to safeguard the children, because you'll get to know them and you'll notice when something's different. But
Mhm.
also it shows them that we're looking at them and that we care. And even if they say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I've got nothing to share," it's like, "Oh, that's all right. How are you feeling? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on?" And I think that then gives them a voice in the room, and it gives
Mm.
them a chance to be like, "Oh, this space is also for me." Whereas when I would go into ballet and I was forced to go and stand at the bar and the teacher wouldn't say anything, the piano would go and we just started a plie exercise that we knew. it
Mm.
it didn't feel as comforting to me. And
Yeah.
I want to be, I don't know, I want to feel like when I'm dancing or going into a class that it's kind of like a hug, like,
Yeah.
you're welcomed here, come here, rather than,
Yeah.
you know no, stay over there.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. Mm. It's a. I feel like I got a hug listening to you. Uh, yeah, it made me think about a lot of things, but one of the things that came up while I was listening to you when we were talking about inclusive language, uh, I've been trying to teach in as much French as possible in the setting that I'm in, and equally it's made me like reflect on like the literal translation of the words like plie,
Yeah.
where I was like, ah, okay, and now we plie. But then when like, ah, no, it actually means bend, and how can it's added a whole nother layer of trying to find inclusive language. And it will be an ongoing journey, I think, for a long time to regain all of that vocabulary in a second language. But it's also made me like inspired to think about the way that actually maybe like native French speakers understand some of the dance language that I have an assumption of what it means,
Mm.
and put an image alongside a word that isn't even a noun, it's an action actually, but I've imposed this like idea of what it is, and to kind of go back to the root of like, oh, but what is the actual like movement quality or the action of what we're trying to achieve, and how can that open up more possibilities for them and for me, like in
Yeah.
both sides. But yeah, and yeah, I am just inspired constantly every time I'm in your space by the continued emphasis on progressing that lens of access in a movement space. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. Um,
I have to say, I think it shouldn't be hard. We
no.
should all be doing it. But I think because of the structures that are in place within dance training, it does make it harder. And I think
Mm.
it's a system that needs adjusting, not necessarily a language. And I do find it easier with the type of, I mean, the language also does, especially like when we're speaking French and not actually using terms that work. But I think I'm very fortunate in the type of classes that I teach, because I actually have a full range to what I can do. I go into a few primary schools in the week, and they are special educational needs and disabilities primary schools. So I will go into a space and there will be wheelchair users in one classroom. There will, in another classroom, I may have a mixed range of children with different abilities. And then in my final classroom on a Tuesday. Everybody is sprinting around the room and it is amazing and it's really fun. But then I also get to play and figure out how to bring everybody in and how we can access everybody in those spaces.
Mm,
And so I feel like I am very fortunate because I get to also keep playing and explore with so many different children and adults throughout my teaching week. Um,
mm.
but I wish that more people were doing it. I wish that we had more inclusive language being used across the board so that
Yeah,
everybody could be in each class and explore.
definitely, definitely. Mm, I love it's exciting. It's exciting to talk about how we want to continue to grow the access.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, to close, I thought maybe I would ask you one more question
Mhm.
of just you are teaching a lot of different groups of people in a lot of different spaces. And I wondered if you had any like recent moments that made you super excited or inspired in class, or like a small anecdote that you would like to share from any recent teaching
Oh,
experience.
it's hard to pinpoint, but there's so many. And so can I do two? I'll do them quick.
Of course.
So one of them is in one of my classes at the Royal Academy of Dance, which is a Radiate class. And the student came in and hadn't been for a few weeks and was so excited to be there. And I've not seen them engage in class in this way. And they did the entire session. And it's not necessarily that it's important to do the whole session, but they were so involved and I didn't even have to offer them information. They knew what was coming next. And they were so excited that like the entire class, they were just beaming. And it really like I left feeling so like warm. It was the most
Yeah,
beautiful moment of the week. And I wish I could feel that way every day. And actually, I wish I felt how they felt because they were having the best time. Um, and then another one is actually a creative class, and I was working with teenagers, and I asked them to a very simple warm-up exercise that isn't that interesting. I asked them to make it interesting, and I gave them different tools to do it, but I didn't give them too many. And I didn't give them any time. I just said, on the next round, you're doing this. And it went from rigid dancers just stood in the space doing this little sequence. And then all of a sudden it was as if like confetti was being thrown. Some of the children, when we're just meant to turn our head to one side, were like on the floor. Some of the students were like attacking it. Some of them were moving slowly. And it was so amazing to watch. And I kind of felt like everything was just getting thrown around the room. And oh, it was a moment where I actually, the moment we finished, I had to just stop for a second because I was like blown away by how amazingly creative these students were and how much they played with that thing without even thinking about it, which is, I
yeah,
think, really hard.
right. Yeah,
I overthink, oh, maybe if I do this, then this will look really good, or it might look cool, or oh, I want it to look technically nice. And they just went. And
yeah.
it was so freeing.
Mm. Ah, yes, like the power of creativity and the power of joy and the power of movement. Thank you so much for sharing. It made me smile.
Yeah.
Uh,
Made me smile too.
oh, good. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing today and being so open and for joining. I really, really appreciated it. It's been so lovely to catch up and to hear about uh yeah, a bit more about your movement journey as well. For all the listeners, please stay tuned. Each episode is released on Saturday, and the guest announcements come on Tuesdays. Please leave any comments or questions you have in the comment section below, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you again, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 9 of Conversations for the Moving Self. We only have one episode after this for season 1, and I'm so excited to continue creating these episodes, having these incredible conversations with all of these incredible artists. But we need your support. Please follow and subscribe to your listening platform as well as the social media that you use to find out about updates. It's super, super helpful and will allow us to continue making the episodes. And if you have anyone you would like to hear from for season 2, please leave a comment or send me a message. I'm super, super excited to see where season 2 goes. Sending you all warm wishes. Thank you so much from CMS. Lots of love.